Breakfast. It used to be called the most important meal of the day. But lately, many doctors and nutritionists are rethinking this old adage. Why? For one, there's new evidence to suggest that a form of intermittent fasting, going 12 to 14 hours without food, can bring positive health to those managing chronically high blood sugar levels. This means that many type 2 diabetics are finding success by skipping breakfast. But perhaps more importantly, today's food industry is absolutely flooded with incredibly harmful breakfast products, many of which are masquerading as healthy foods. So managing diabetes and eating a quality, safe breakfast can be quite the challenge. That's why we're going to reveal the top 5 absolute worst breakfast foods, especially if you are managing erratic glucose levels. First, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Also, later in this vid, we're giving away 2 free gifts. Plus, stick around to the end to discover a secretly dangerous breakfast ingredient you've probably been using for years. Right now, it's time to get to the list. These are the top 5 worst breakfast foods for diabetics. There are so many potentially harmful breakfast foods out there that we had to add a runner-up to this list. So let's start where most of us want to go in the morning, to Bacon Town. Yeah, we know, you love bacon. In fact, the average American consumes about 18 pounds of bacon per year. But the simple fact is, bacon is not a very healthy choice. Most cuts of bacon are automatically high in saturated fats. Though you want a decent amount of polyunsaturated fats in your diet, saturated fats can be harmful to your body. Regularly consuming the fat from these fried meat sticks could lead to inflammation, weight gain, and heart disease. However, even if you think switching to a leaner protein variety, like turkey bacon, is a healthy alternative, think again. All cuts of meat in bacon form are heavily processed, and healthy alternative bacon varieties tend to contain added sugars and preservatives. At the end of the day, any type of bacon is considered carcinogenic, meaning it's been linked to several forms of cancer. In fact, the World Health Organization estimates that processed meat consumption causes 34,000 cancer deaths each year. So yeah, maybe it's time for you to stop bringing home the bacon. Well, now that we've said goodbye to that elephant or pig in the room, it's time to get to the list. Number 5. Packaged breakfast bars. How many times have you picked up a box of breakfast granola, oatmeal, or protein bars because it was advertised as low sugar or low fat? If you were thinking these products were the perfect, modest, and healthy breakfast on the go, sorry to burst your bubble. If you take away the marketing gimmicks, these processed foods can be seen for what they truly are: candy bars. Many of the top breakfast bars on the market are heavily processed with large quantities of simple sugars like fructose. Some breakfast bars may be advertised as whole grain, but these products are so thoroughly processed that by the time it reaches the supermarket shelf, it's pretty much devoid of any fiber. At the same time, these bars pack a ton of carbs into a tiny block. Additionally, these products tend to be loaded with other unhealthy chemicals and preservatives. And even if they are advertised as containing healthy fruits, the fruit inside is usually covered in sugar-laden syrup. So any positive nutrition you might think you'd get from that fruit is negated by the huge sugar load. But what about granola bars? Granola sounds healthy, right? Well, unrefined oats, like you'd find in steel-cut natural oatmeal, can in fact be healthy. But packaged granola bars are also heavily processed, often dressed up in syrups and other added sugars. Just like other breakfast bars, they may sound healthy, but they won't actually supply you with much of any fiber or protein. Instead, they'll simply flood your system with simple sugar. So maybe it's time to rethink your on-the-go breakfast in a bar. Number 4. Hash browns. Let's be honest, they may be delicious, but hash browns are basically just breakfast French fries. Hash browns are usually cooked in trans fat or other saturated fat oils, like canola and sunflower oil. Typically made from starchy white potato, these deep-fried delicacies are also usually heavily salted. Potatoes, on their own, can provide some amount of nutrition, from potassium to vitamin C to fiber. But even if you forego the high-starch white potatoes for more fiber-rich sweet potato varieties, that may not add up to much of any health benefit when it comes to hash browns. Often coated in white or corn flour, they'll surely give you a huge carb load and may lead you to experience a big blood sugar spike. Plus, they'll be fried, and eating fried foods on a regular basis has been linked with an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. And don't forget, store-bought, frozen, pre-made varieties of hash browns will most definitely also come loaded with added sugar, high quantities of sodium, and harmful chemical preservatives. In the end, you won't find much of any health benefit from hash browns. In fact, an Italian study found that people who ate fried potatoes twice per week or more doubled their chances of an early death. But if you simply need your morning potato fix, put away the deep fryer or the canola oil and go for baked sweet potato instead. Numbers 3 to 1 are coming up, but first, why not take a minute to grab 2 free gifts? Click the link in the description below to grab a free copy of our new book, Superfoods for Diabetics. Plus, you can get free access to watch episode 1 of our 8-part series, That Diabetes Documentary. Again, all you gotta do is click the link below to grab both free gifts. And now, back to the list. Number 3. Pastries, waffles, and pancakes. It's just so difficult to avoid these high-carb breakfast foods, isn't it? Admit it. When you picture a comforting morning meal, chances are you're thinking about a plate of fluffy pancakes stacked a mile high, smothered in maple syrup. Yeah, these fluffy and delicious breakfast staples are all on the naughty list when it comes to diabetes. By now, you probably know that these flour-based, simple sugar-laden, bready foods will most assuredly spike your glucose levels. Pastries, waffles, and pancakes also tend to be made with large quantities of eggs, milk, and butter. This will add saturated fat to your breakfast, which has been shown to increase bad cholesterol levels. Plus, don't forget about that maple syrup. Just 1 tablespoon of maple syrup can contain about 14 grams of sugar. But even if you forget the syrup, these high-carb breakfast staples, just like white bread, will give you the equivalent of multiple teaspoons of sugar without the benefit of fiber. Which reminds us, don't forget that plain old white bread, without added fiber or protein, should be avoided in the morning as well. So toast on its own, or just with butter or margarine, is also not a great breakfast option. Number 2. Cereal. How many of us grew up on cereal? Quick, easy, and cheap, this has been the go-to breakfast choice of busy parents for decades. But now we know, many varieties of cereal actually are no better for us than a bowl of pure candy. Just look at the nutrition info on these boxes and chances are you'll see an entire catalog of processed simple sugar ingredients, like high fructose corn syrup, agave nectar, and dextrose. In fact, certain varieties of cereal are over 50% pure sugar. Just 1 serving can contain 15 grams of carbs. But even if you're avoiding those flashy dessert cereals, more down-to-earth varieties will still load your plate, or bowl, with carbohydrates. Even some of the quote-unquote healthier wheat cereals can actually be higher on the glycemic index scale than their more processed counterparts. In fact, 1 serving of packaged bran flake cereals, though higher in fiber than other cereals, will still supply you over 6 grams of sugar. Chances are, whatever type of cereal you choose, you'll be adding milk to the mix. That means including just 1 cup of 1% fat milk will still lump an extra 13 grams of carbs into your quick breakfast. The American Diabetes Association recommends choosing cereals that contain less than 6 grams of sugar and at least 3 grams of fiber. Because very few cereals on the market meet these standards, this ever-popular breakfast staple may be best left on the supermarket shelf. And now, The #1 breakfast food to avoid if you have diabetes is breakfast drinks. That's right, the food you should be most wary of is actually a drink, or rather a wide range of drinks. You may want that shot of energy you'd expect from fruit juices, fruit smoothies, or bottled energy drinks. But by now, you're probably aware that the energy boost is coming from their ridiculously high sugar contents. And what goes up must come down, meaning that the glucose spikes you'll receive from these drinks will quickly cause you to crash, leaving you feeling dehydrated, tired, and generally unhealthy. Natural fruit drinks, like orange, apple, and pineapple juices, may contain at least some amount of fiber, but even the least processed varieties will still flood your system with glucose. Just 1 cup of orange juice supplies you over 20 grams of sugar and only half a gram of fiber. Store-bought fruit smoothies may be even more unhealthy. Packaged varieties actually tend to have most all their fiber content completely stripped. While most doctors and nutritionists recommend consuming no more than a few servings of fruit per day, fruit smoothies tend to have multiple pieces of fruit condensed down to fit into the cup. Plus, fruit smoothies often contain high-sugar yogurt or other carb-heavy dairy ingredients. Energy drinks could be the worst kind of breakfast for your body. Not only are they filled with a variety of unhealthy chemical preservatives and a huge amount of processed sugars, but they are packed with an overabundance of caffeine. This may lead to increased blood pressure and insomnia, which can place a dangerous amount of stress on your body. Stress is one of the key risk factors for type 2 diabetes. So perhaps it's time to avoid drinking your breakfast. Well, that's our list. But we're not done just yet. As promised, let's reveal a hidden, secretly dangerous breakfast ingredient. Look out for coffee creamers. We already mentioned the danger of adding too much milk to your cereal, but as it's estimated that over 1 billion people around the world are coffee drinkers, at least 2 billion cups of coffee are consumed per day, and over 80% of US adults identify themselves as regular coffee drinkers. That means many of us are probably also drinking a good amount of coffee creamer. This can include half and half or even those chemically concocted flavored coffee creamers. Milk contains lactose, a form of sugar which may take time to be absorbed into your bloodstream, but can still spike your blood sugar nonetheless. Half and half is high in fat and in calories, so even using it in little amounts can still add to your waistline. And store-bought flavored creamers come loaded with added sugars, preservatives, even thickening agents and emulsifiers. These chemicals are meant to improve the texture of these creamers, but some research now suggests that emulsifiers may cause inflammation and damage to your digestive system. Also, be sure to avoid powdered creamers, as their shelf lives are extended using partially hydrogenated oil. This type of fat can raise unhealthy LDL cholesterol levels, increase your blood sugar, and can lead to inflammation. Instead, try switching to unsweetened plant-based milks, like almond milk, coconut milk, or oat milk. They'll supply you with less carb content than normal full-fat milk. Most should be free of potentially dangerous chemical additives and artificial sweeteners like you'd find in flavored or powdered creamers. Well, that about wraps up this Diabetes Smarts vid. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to keep up with all our latest content. And don't forget to click the link in the description below to grab both free gifts: Superfoods for Diabetics and episode 1 of that diabetes documentary. Thanks for watching. Now, go have yourself a diabetes fighting day.